Madam Speaker, is that what this EO was today, the bare minimum?
Yes, it fell sadly and seriously short. One thing I did agree with the president is Congress should act. He said that, he alluded to that a number of times. Congress should do more. Yes, it would be easy to do more because he fell so short, meekly surrendering.
Did you view it as, I mean, it's hard to project onto Donald Trump any strategery, as my old boss might have said, but did you view it as an open conversation, or did the optics speak for themselves, that he was flanked by a largely white male law enforcement crowd? I mean, is his position clear to you, or is there a compromise to be reached with him?
Well, I hope there's a compromise to be reached in the Congress of the United States. I'm more concerned about what Mitch McConnell said about our bill, the George P. Floyd Justice in Policing Act. He said it's not going anywhere in the Senate. We won't have any of that. We won't have any of what? Ending racial profiling. We won't have any of ending chokeholds. We won't have any of no-knock warrants. The list goes on and on. That is serious. How many more hundreds of thousands of people have to demonstrate in the streets, protest peacefully for justice, in policing? How many more people have to die from police brutality? And so for the leader of the Senate to say it's going nowhere, we don't want any of that, is really disgraceful and really ignores the concerns of the American people. We all know that we need to have guidelines, we need to have training, we need to have database, we need all of those things, but we also need to have some serious legislation to make sure it happens nationally. Nationally. I feel very, very disappointed by the dangerous statement made by the Republican leader of the Senate.
Madam Speaker, you have, as of today, public opinion behind you and what you're talking about. You have 76% of Americans who see systemic racism as the problem. The president, and at least Larry Kudlow and William Barr and other people around him, don't agree on what the problem is. So I guess I'm asking where you take this majority of public support that is behind your views on this issue, and those being articulated by Democrats and maybe a couple of Republicans, mostly privately at this point, and how you push forward with the change that the demonstrators are asking for, with the president and his administration dug in around incrementalism.
Well, first of all, I think what the president had today was a photo op, and he did say Congress should act. The leader of the Senate, who was there, the Republican leader of the Senate, said the House bill is going nowhere. We'll have none of that. You heard Senator Booker's response to all of that. What we are proposing is something that is proposed by the Congressional Black Caucus, in the hopper for a number of years, worked on for a long time, understanding the nature of the problem. And you know what? The American people understand it too. And so here we have a place where we can work together. We've had our chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Karen Bass. We're so proud of her having conversation and communication with the Fraternal Order of Police, respecting any suggestions that they may have. So this isn't about drawing red lines in the sand. It's about making a big difference, taking a giant step forward, and saying to the leader in the Senate, you call yourself the Grim Reaper. How aptly named you are. When you see how many people have died, how much lack of confidence there is in whether there is systemic racism in our country, and clearly there is. But we have an opportunity for America. This is a time of reckoning to say we're going to make a change that is real, not cosmetic, not perfunctory, not a photo op, but legislation that is real. And the people understand The people understand. So they have to know, as you've heard me say many times, Nicole, that President Lincoln said public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. With it, without it, practically nothing. Well, public sentiment is there. And if the Republicans in the Senate want to choose to ignore the public sentiment about justice and policing, they do so at their peril. I hope they don't. We'd rather have legislation than an issue with the Republican senators.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.